Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Thank you for joining me as I head back into the rich poetry found in Tolkien's epic poem, The Lay of Leithian. Now, last week we started Canto 10 as faithful Finrod met his end saving Beren, and Huan killed a whole bunch of Sauron's werewolves. Today we finish Canto 10 as Draugluin meets his end, and Sauron himself has to bring the fight to Lúthien. A mightier shadow slowly filled the narrow bridge, a slavering hate and awful werewolf, fierce and great, pale Draugluin, the old grey lord of wolves and beasts of blood abhorred, who fed on flesh of man and elf beneath chair of Sauron himself. No more in silence did they fight, howling and baying smote the night, till back by the chair where he had fed to die the werewolf yammering fled. Huan is there, he gasped and died. Sauron was filled with wrath and pride. Before the mightiest he shall fall, before the mightiest wolf of all. So thought he now, and thought he knew how fate long spoken should come true. Now there came slowly forth and glared into the night a shape long-haired, dank with poison, with awful eyes, wolvish, ravenous, but there lies a light therein more cruel and dread than ever wolvish eyes had fed. More huge were its limbs, its jaws more wide, its fangs more gleaming, sharp, and dyed with venom, torment, and with death. The deadly vapor of its breath swept on before it. Swooning dies the song of Lúthien, and her eyes are dimmed and darkened with a fear, cold and poisonous and drear. Thus came Sauron as wolf more great than e'er was seen from Angban's gate to the burning south, than ever lurked in mortal lands or murder worked. Sudden he sprang, and Huan leapt aside in shadow. On he swept to Lúthien, lying swooning faint. To her drowning senses came the taint of his foul breathing, and she stirred. Dizzily she spake a whispered word. Her mantle brushed across his face. He stumbled, staggering in his pace. Out leaped Huan, back he sprang. Beneath the stars there shuddering rang the cry of hunting wolves at bay, the tongue of hounds that fearless slay. Backward and forth they leaped and ran, feinting to flee, and round they span and bit and grappled and fell and rose. Then suddenly Huan holds and throws his ghastly foe. His throat he rends, choking his life. Not so it ends. From shape to shape, from wolf to worm, from monster to his own demon form, Sauron changes, but that hard grip he cannot shake, nor from it slip. No wizardry, nor spell, no dart, no fang, nor venom, nor devil's art could harm that hound that hart and boar had hunted once in Valinor. Nigh the foul spirit, ancient maid and bent to evil, shuddering strayed from its dark house. Lúthien arose, and shivering looked upon his throes. O demon dark, O phantom vile, to foulness brought, to lies and guile, here shalt thou die, thy spirit roam, quaking back to thy master's home, his scorn and fury to endure. Thee he will in the bowels immure of groaning earth, and in a hole everlastingly thy naked soul shall wail and gibber. This shall be, unless the keys thou render me of thy black fortress, and the spell that bindeth stone to stone thou tell, and speak the words of opening. With gasping breath and shuddering he spake, and yielded as he must, and vanquished betrayed his master's trust. Lo, by the bridge a gleam of light, like stars descended from the night, to burn and tremble here below. There wide her arms did Lúthien throw, and called aloud with voice as clear as still at while may mortal hear long elvish trumpets o'er the hill echo when all the world is still. The dawn peered over mountains wan, their grey heads silent looked thereon. The hill trembled, the citadel crumbled, and all its towers fell. The rocks yawned, and the bridge broke, and Sirion spurned in sudden smoke. Like ghosts the owls were flying seen, hooting in the dawn, and bats unclean went skimming dark through the cold airs, shrieking thinly to find new lairs in deadly nightshades' branches dread. The wolves whimpering and yammering fled like dusky shadows. Out there creep pale forms and ragged as from sleep, crawling and shielding blinded eyes, the captives in fear and in surprise, from dolor long and clinging night, beyond all hope set free to light. A vampire shape with pinions vast, screeching, leaped from the ground and past, its dark blood dripping on the trees, and who on 'neath him lifeless sees a wolvish corpse. Sauron had flown to Taurnufuin, a new throne and darker stronghold there to build. The captives came and wept and shrilled their piteous cries of thanks and praise, but Lúthien, anxious gazing, stays. Beren comes not. At length she said, Huan, among the dead must we then find him whom we sought, for love of whom we toiled and fought. Then side by side, from stone to stone o'er Sirion they climbed alone. Unmoving they him found who mourned by Felagund and never turned to see what feet drew halting nigh. Without a sound, without a sigh, her arms about him then she cast, and fell down into darkness fast. Her touch such love and longing filled, he raised his eyes, his mourning stilled, and felt his heart new turned to flame for her that through peril to him came. O Lúthien, more fair than any child of men, O loveliest maid of Elveness, what might of love did thee possess to bring thee here to terror's lair? O flower of Elfland ever fair! She had found his arms and swooned away just at the rising of the day. Well, in today's reading, we start with the death of Draugluin, the father of all werewolves and a terror filled with an evil spirit. But he is no match for Huan, who mortally wounds him before he can deliver the news of the Hound of Valinor's presence to his master Sauron, who thinks he's got this. He comes, and it nearly overwhelms Lúthien. Swooning dies the song of Lúthien, and her eyes are dimmed and darkened with a fear, cold and poisonous and drear. She may be down, but she's not out, whispering a word and just brushing her mantle against the face of Sauron in his mighty wolf form. It's just enough for Huan to leap into the fray and take advantage. Sauron, the shapeshifter here, wolf to worm, monster, demon, he cannot get away, and Lúthien knows she has the upper hand. She secures the words of opening and sets free the prisoners, eventually finding Beren. And that is where we'll pick up next week. For now, though, folks, that's it for today's First Stage Friday. Now, we'll eventually be getting back to Fandom Friday, so if you know anyone who should join me here for a future Fandom Friday, let me know by emailing bartleman@theprancingponypodcast.com. Please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, a monthly hangout with me, a bonus weekly episode, and a lot more. And then join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times as we wrap up this week with Silmarillion Saturday. If you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Please follow or subscribe in your podcast apps and follow @Tolkien Times on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.